Hello everybody, welcome along. My name is Benjamin Bloom. This is the Benjamin Bloom Football Channel. Please leave your bias at the door and join us for Dearly Departed, and it is preview time for round 22 Premier League action. Saturday midweek. The past couple of weeks now, some postponements being rescheduled causing that, but the Dearly Departed have been very, very busy lately, so we're going to preview the latest midweek round of games. Who are the Dearly Departed? Of course, they are the teams I've covered as a championship YouTuber that have managed very cleverly to get themselves promoted. So from 18-19 championship season, we're covering Sheffield United and Aston Villa, and from the 1920 championship season, we are covering Leeds, West Brom and Fulham. We're going to have a look at the 4 games, which means, yes, there is a Dearly Departed derby this round that are occurring this midweek. We'll get to that in just a second. First of all, we will say a big thank you to Coyle, who is our fan sponsor for the Dearly Departed shows. Dearly Departed, also known as Ben Couldn't Bear to Lose Us. Here are our midweek fixtures. As ever, the Dearly Departed games with the Blue Bells next to them, and right at the top of the list there, 6pm kickoff on Tuesday. Sheffield United versus West Brom is a Dearly Departed derby. For those of you who will inevitably ask, we won't be doing that per se as a watch along, but I will be doing a Tuesday night super stream. So I will be streaming it during that game, so do join us tomorrow. We'll certainly have an eye on it, and we'll certainly have plenty of people in the chat watching it and keeping us up to date. Wolves play Arsenal, Manchester United play Southampton, Newcastle play Palace, Burnley play Manchester City, and then the next 3 fixtures are all Dearly Departed games. Fulham versus Leicester, Leeds versus Everton, and Aston Villa versus West Ham. The other 2 remaining Premier League games are Liverpool, Brighton and Spurs versus Chelsea. As ever, we will begin with the team currently highest ranked in the league out of the Dearly Departed. That is Aston Villa, and we're going to look at their game first. So it is Aston Villa versus West Ham, and before we go any further, West Ham have been an absolute nuisance to the Dearly Departed this season. We did, as a watch along, the game at the London Stadium between West Ham and Aston Villa, and it was classic David Moyes West Ham, where Villa were kind of in the game and you thought they could get something out of it, and then just like that they've lost the game. And West Ham seem to have done that to all of the Dearly Departed this season. I think they've beaten all 5 of them in the first half of the season. They have been an absolute nuisance, and that is really to David Moyes' credit. They're a team that is a horrible combination of a team that knows how to defend, a team with heightened physicality in midfield, and then sort of the pace of Bowen and the power of Antonio and the trickery of Ben Rama. They've got all the elements to pull off the type of performance that I've just been mentioning, that we've seen a few times, whereby they sit and they stay in shape and they absorb pressure, and then they can just get you on a set play or a counter attack. A very cleverly put together team by a very experienced Premier League manager in David Moyes. For Aston Villa, they are currently 9th in the table. They do have 2 games in hand, in fact, on West Ham. So a Villa win would put them level on points with the Hammers, who are in 5th with a game in hand. There is, however, a lot of traffic in between Villa and West Ham. Quick aside here, and I'm going to break the 4th wall. This will be coming out on Tuesday. It's 5:05 on Monday. So if anything miraculous happens to any of these teams on deadline day, I've got the screen on just there. I won't be mentioning it because it hasn't happened just yet. And even if it did happen, it would have to be something pretty seismic, I think, to usurp the Villa 11, which is very settled and very strong. Martinez, Cash Cons and Mings target, Douglas Luiz and McGinn, Traore, Barkley, Grealish and Watkins up top. That seems to be the strongest 11. That seems to be the team that Dean Smith wants to put out. And unless anyone's particularly tired or struggling with a knock, I'm sure that's what he will try and go with in this game. Recent form, you can see for West Ham on the right there of the slide, really good. 2 draws followed by then wins over Everton, Burnley, West Brom and Palace. And West Ham do have the air of a team that plays their form and plays their place in the league table. By that, I mean when they're favourites for a game, they tend to do well and they have dismantled the teams who you would think West Ham have got a chance against them. And that has meant the 5 victories over the dearly departed, including one against Aston Villa. Villa lost one over the last 4 games after the COVID stuff. Couple of mitigating factors in the defeats. In Manchester City, we had that ludicrous loophole that's now been closed with Rodri taking the ball off Tyrone Mings, sneaking round him from an offside position before Mings can even chest it down and control it. So we'll be apologists for that. And in the game against Burnley, it was classic what we've described in terms of a West Ham type defeat that Villa had, whereby they had loads of the ball and loads of opportunities. I hope that means, or that doesn't mean, in fact, that Villa are still susceptible to that kind of thing. However, the win against Southampton, Villa were the beneficiaries of a couple of tight refereeing calls, and Southampton were the fool in that one, weren't they, who had the chances and didn't take them, and Villa snuck in. So they've been on both sides of the equation, let's just say. In terms of a prediction, this is a difficult one. I might play tactically because obviously with my dearly departed hat on, I want to see Villa do well. However, far be it at the moment for me to predict against West Ham against the dearly departed, because I just get egg on my face every time I do it. And they're able to get victories. I think this season, with away form being less of an issue, it's less of an issue to tell West Ham they'd be a good away team, but does it really matter? At the moment, I think this will be tight. Both sides know how to defend. Both sides then have attacking quality, whereas West Ham's does seem more snap momentary as opposed to Villa's, where you'd think between Traore, Grealish, Watkins and Barkley, they could dominate 4 or 5 minutes of a game and build up some pressure. However, just West Ham, you know that they're good. They'll keep the shape tight back to front. They'll keep it a hard game. It's a difficult one to call. I'd love to see a Villa win. What I'll do, I'll sit on the fence and say a draw just so I don't predict a Villa win and West Ham go and do the dearly departed again. So we'll go for a draw, but I'd be very interested in your thoughts on this one, particularly as it pertains to West Ham being a bad opponent for Villa, just the way they set up. They're a bad opponent for a lot of teams. And big picture, in terms of where Villa are in the hierarchy, the next step up is a team like West Ham. At the moment, Villa are that step down. They're a team that's kind of competitive and not struggling at the bottom. And we know that covers a lot of ground in the Premier League, whereas West Ham appear to be the next step up. A team that does well against the competitive teams and would be kind of higher up in that list and then beneath the sort of European challenge. So that's kind of where Villa will want to go next. So they'll probably admire West Ham in a weird way. Let's sit on a draw for my prediction. And you let me know your predictions in the comments. Aston Villa versus West Ham United. Our next game, Leeds versus Everton. And Leeds off the back of a really good win up at Leicester this weekend. Leeds have been so good away from home, and Pat Bamford back in really, really good form in that game. Leeds versus Everton was a good matchup earlier in the season for Bielsa's boys. A 1-0 win. Remember Rafinha's first goal, I believe, in that one. Bit of a surprise. Everton flying high at the time. So great result for Leeds, that one at the time. And they've moved on nicely since. There's been ups and there's been downs. You can see if you just check the table on the right-hand side. 9 wins, 9 defeats. But hey, it's Bielsa. Keeps things interesting, doesn't it? I'm sure if you said to most fans that you'll win a lot, lose a lot, but you won't draw, most fans would rather that than the mediocrity of lots and lots of draws. Leeds up into 12th in the table. 3 wins in 5 is decent form, and they've come back really strongly from losing to Crawley in the FA Cup, and then those back-to-back league defeats against Spurs and Brighton, which was a really disappointing one, wasn't it, up at Elland Road. In terms of the team, Leeds fans were falling over themselves to tell me that after Rafinha and Rodrigo, basically the two big signings, went off in the game against Leicester, it's virtually the Championship team. So they've done a really great job, these players, to step up. You can find, no doubt, lots of clips of me saying, oh, well, I think Meslier will get a go. I think Ailing will get a go. I think Click and Phillips will be fine. Everybody else has got to prove themselves. Maybe Harrison. I remember saying, I thought Helder Costa would be a fixture. But the way it's turned out, some real star turns. Stuart Dallas moving into midfield now, doing a good job. Alioski, I didn't for one moment think he'd be the starting left back. And I think things will stay roughly as they are. And given Llorente's injury and Bielsa's penchant for an unchanged team, if there's any hope of getting that out, with obviously the caveat of Rodrigo and Rafinha's problems there and going off in that game, he will. Obviously, there's some fairly straightforward replacements in terms of Matthias Click and Helder Costa. And then, yes, it does. Take out Ben White. It does just look exactly like the promotion team from the Championship. And this just proves what we've said all along, and Bielsa's belief: pattern of play, system and philosophy is everything. As long as that has been consistent right the way through, doesn't matter what division you're in, does it? If it works in one, in theory, if you do it well in the other, it'll work there too. So the only thing is to then mention Everton, isn't it? Who are not in good form really, are they? The past 2 games, a draw against Leicester and then a defeat, and that's the one that smarts, isn't it? 2 goals from Callum Wilson. They're down in 8th. Again, I will reiterate, we're expecting possibly Everton to do something in the next 5 hours and 42 minutes in terms of the transfer window. So there may be a new face in there for Carlo Ancelotti. So another tricky one to call, isn't it? If you said to Leeds that you would win 1 and draw 1 against Everton and take the 4 points, they would be absolutely fine with that, to hear that in isolation. But obviously, knowing they've already won the first game and knowing the way Bielsa is, there's no possible way he would ever in his wildest dreams play for a draw. But what I'm saying is a pair, a win away and a draw at home and 4 points would be great. But can they get the win? I think they would be helped massively by Rafinha being fit. I think they'll be all right at the back. I think everything's, they've done it for so long now without Koch and Llorente that they'll probably be all right. And Dallas has stepped into midfield and he does a good job wherever he goes. I'm loath to predict a victory because I think they might be able to get it, and I don't want to put the hex on it. So I think I'll do exactly what I did with Villa and West Ham. And I'll predict a draw, so I don't put the mockers on it, which you people sometimes believe I do. But with my fingers crossed here under the table for the dearly departed, that Leeds can do it. Can they register the double over Everton, a proven Premier League club. It would be a fine thing for the dearly departed. I will go for a draw. Let me know what you think down there in the comments. Leeds versus Everton. Fulham versus Leicester. What do you call that? Alan Mullery derby. Can't think who else has played for both. Now, Fulham had a really, really impressive result. And if you look at the league table, they've only won 2 games this season. So one of their 2 victories was against Leicester earlier in the season. And this was kind of the point where Scott Parker switched to the 3 and the wing-backs, and Bobby Reid went up and down one side, and all of a sudden Cavaliero's going to play up top, and he scored in that game as well, didn't he? Really good performance that against Leicester. We just mentioned Leicester. They lost to Leeds at the weekend, and the big elephant in the room, they're obviously without Jamie Vardy. We think some business may be done at Leicester as well in the next 5 hours. Again, if it happens, I don't know about it. So there we go. Time is of the essence. Leicester still in 4th. It was a run of 4 wins and 3 draws. So a 7-match unbeaten streak prior to that game against Leeds at the weekend. Fulham, the big worry, and it's just broken record time from me, is yes, well done Parker for regenerating the team. Yes, well done for coming up with a new system. Yes, well done for being competitive, but they're just not winning games. And if we look at the table, it's 2 wins in 20, 14 points from 20. We're over halfway. Yes, there's a lot of draws in there. 8 draws. Only Brighton have drawn more than Fulham. But all of that adds up to the fact that Fulham are now 7 points adrift of Brighton, who they've recently drawn to. And they've also drawn to West Brom in the last game. And they just desperately need a win. Can they get it against Leicester? Who knows? There is the Fulham team from last time out, which drew against West Brom. And the big elephant in the room there, I'll use that term again, is Mitrovic back into the team over Cavaliero up front. I'm a big fan of Mitrovic. And in terms of, yes, Cavaliero may give a bit more in terms of legs, pace, dribbling ability. I don't know, maybe just a bit more work. But Fulham are not winning games and Mitrovic is a goal scorer. And sometimes that can just be the difference. Tight game, maybe you didn't even play so well, but you have a goal scorer in your team and he'll bail you out. And Scott Parker should know more than most about being bailed out by Mitrovic, because it happened many times in the Championship last season. So it was Areola, Aina, Anderson, Adrabio, all the A's. Robinson back from suspension. Reed, Lamina and Guisa in midfield. So maybe you might see a Harrison Reed, I don't know. Loftus-Cheek, Mitrovic and Lookman up top. I like the team, but Scott Parker likes Harrison Reed and he likes Cavalier. I don't know the status of either player, whether they're carrying knocks in the short term, but that may be the only change. Like I said, Leicester missing Vardy is a caveat for a possible Fulham good result. It's very hard for me, given all the draws and the lack of wins, to predict a Fulham win in this one. Even without Vardy, I think Leicester are dangerous and they're going to be looking to bounce back. I don't like to do this, but I'm going to. Away win in this one. I'm predicting a Leicester City victory. Apologies in advance. And this is the 3rd prediction now, I would like to be wrong about, and I hope I am. Let me know what you think in the comments. Fulham versus Leicester. And finally is a dearly departed derby. Sheffield United versus West Brom. We normally look forward to these, but the truth is, could be a bit of a death knell, this one, if there's a decisive result for the losing team. Because, and obviously I've had to crowd the slide there a little bit, so the league table is over on the left. 19th and 20th, 8 points and 12 points. Just not been great, has it? So 17 games to go now. And, I mean, when we measure Fulham, it's bad with the 7 points. When we measure West Brom, it's worse, 9 points to safety. When we measure Sheffield United, even worse. Can't even add it up. 13 points to safety, a further 4 points back. So basically, a West Brom win, even the gap to safety, even with a Brighton defeat, a West Brom win would then put Sheffield United a minimum of 6 points away from their nearest rivals. I know it's been worse than that this season. And a Sheffield United win, well, I'm sure Brighton will be fine with that because they know that the tide isn't really going to rise at all because Sheffield United can't go above West Brom. We did the return game of this as a watch-along and it was mad. It was mental because West Brom won 1-0. Conor Gallagher scored. However, Sheffield United, no hyperbole here, created like 5 big chances and did not take a single one. It was hapless in the extreme. And I just remember Chris Wilder's face sort of, well, what else do I do? I've set the team out and we just couldn't finish our dinner in this one. Recent results, well, Blades got their first win, didn't they, against Newcastle, lost to Spurs, beat incredibly Manchester United and then lost to Manchester City. So there is some idea of an upturn in form. For West Brom, it's just the home form's been so atrociously bad. That trend was bucked in the game against Fulham where they got a draw, but we were doing this as the Saturday Super Stream was going, and from what I heard, they absolutely got away with one because Fulham apparently murdered them in the first half. But the comeback then happened. It was a turnaround, and then it ended up even with Fulham having to equalise to get back in it. I think I've got the goals the right way round. In that one, for Sheffield United, we know what the shape will be. It's Chris Wilder. Last time out was Ramsdale, Bashan, Egan, Ampadu, Bogle and Baldock. So Bogle having to cover. I'm not sure on the status of Ender Stevens, whether he'll be back. He had to cover there, Bogle, the left-hand side. Fleck, Norwood, Lundstrom, they're still missing Berger in central midfield. Burke and Brewster, well, that would boss the championship, you would think, wouldn't it? But at least the one thing we do know with Sheffield United is we know the team shape, we know the drilling. Maybe the confidence has gone a bit this season. Maybe the game management has gone a little bit this season. Maybe they're missing Dean Henderson and Jack O'Connell a lot. But 2 wins in the last 4 is an upturn in form of late. For West Brom, it's still the sense of Big Sam trying to get them to carry out his instructions and trying to find out what's going to stick here. Last time, Johnston, Ajayi, Bartley returns and scores. O'Shea, Furlong and Gibbs, wing-backs. Snodgrass, Livermore, Gallagher. We thought Sawyers might go out after the Manchester City game. Wasn't a good one for him. Robinson and Pereira. Pereira has been very good for Allardyce, who, in the past, if we think about people like Okocha and Djorkaeff and Bobic at Bolton, did like to set up a stiff sort of defence for flair players to work in front of. So he does let them work, contrary to what you might think in terms of his reputation as a manager. Just recent form, though, since Allardyce has arrived, in fact. That is his entire tenure we've got on the screen there on the right. 8 games, 5 points. I mean, it's not the worst, but Big Sam has been saying it himself, preaching the virtues of a point per game. That's what he wants. Will that be enough to catch Brighton? At the moment, it'll take a while, and it'll take a bad Brighton run. They need wins. Who's going to win this one? I'm going to go for Sheffield United. Just on the basis, I just feel that we've got one active team and one passive team. That's the way I'm feeling about this. And I think, although we could get the situation where Sheffield United come on to West Brom and completely play into Allardyce's hands, I think Sheffield United are going to be able to wear them down in the end, and hopefully for Blade's sake not concede enough chances. So I'm going to go for Sheffield United, although as I'm saying that I realise West Brom have been quite good away from home and not good at home. But look, I've got to stick with my hunch. and go for a Blades victory, which would be the 3rd in 5, which is good form. And okay, it would be the most miraculous of escapes, but it would at least put them in touch with the others, which is the first point. Be competitive, get in touch with the others, and then see where you go from there. Although they've left themselves a very tall order. But I'm still going to go for it, a Sheffield United win. Let me know what you think in the comments. A dearly departed derby, Sheffield United versus West Brom. Thank you again to our fan sponsor, J. Coyle, dearly departed, also known as Ben. Couldn't bear to lose us. That's our show for today. As I've said a couple of times in the broadcast, it's going to be a busy opening of the week with transfer deadline day heaping on to the normal level of work. So I do apologise if there's been big news happens in between filming this and coming out. Like I said, it's 5:30 now on Monday. This will come out early on Tuesday morning. So the worst that will happen is one of the dearly departed makes a big signings that will not be mentioned in this video. I hope you understand we're trying to keep up with everything. I've got a watch along to do for the Championship, a Monday night watch along that hasn't obviously happened yet, that will have happened by the time you are watching this. Please get involved in the comments with your own predictions. Love to hear from you and your logic and your rationale and your hopes over these games. Think about getting involved over on Patreon. We're trying now to build up regular content on Patreon over there for our Patreon paying subscribers there, the same as we're getting on YouTube here. It's becoming more viable. I'm just trying to figure out how to work the content in, etc, etc. With all of that being said, thank you very much for watching. We will, of course, review these games as a whole, or if there's big stories, I'll do them as individual games because people have tended to like them. It's just how many hours are there in a day for us to get all this stuff out. Right, I'm going to get back to this garish yellow screen and ticking Sky Sports all day on deadline day. And hope for a good, entertaining, dearly departed midweek. Thank you very much for watching. Over and out. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button to see more videos from this channel. Hit the subscribe button and to be notified every time we upload. Ring the bell for those notifications to come through on your device. If you really want to support the channel and me as a content creator, I will be eternally grateful if you head over to the merch store and grab something, or support over on Patreon, patreon.com/Benjamin Bloom. Thank you for your time. Go and watch another video.